Afternoon, everybody. We will start. I'll give it a minute. Well, not quite a minute. We'll start in a second. As it is being recorded, anyone can catch up anything we're missing anyway. I think we'll make a start. So, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the next Teach Meet in the series for my presidential year. This one is fieldwork focused due to it being Festival of Fieldwork month. I'm going to hand over to Chloe Sell, who is chair of the Fieldwork Special Interest Group, to talk about what Festival of Fieldwork involves to start off with. Over to you, Chloe.
Thanks, Hina. Welcome everybody. So yeah, it's June and that can only mean one thing, and it's going to be loads of you hopefully going outside and doing loads of field work if the weather improves a little bit. But what we want you to be thinking about is not just about taking your kids out and doing some amazing things, which I know is going to be happening anyway, but also about how you can support maybe newer teachers in your department, or you can support teachers who are starting out in departments where they're a department of one, and how we can kind of give them confidence and give them encouragement to kind of get involved in field work as well. So the National Festival of Fieldwork kind of has 4 strands to it. The first one is participation. So it's about registering your kids on the GA website, and through the National Festival of Fieldwork part of the GA website, you can register your school, and therefore you get your download of your certificate, and you can send that out to all your kids and really kind of celebrate what we know is really special about fieldwork with them. Then it's all about supporting the delivery of fieldwork. So that could be by sharing resources through social media. It could be by sending stuff to us at FOLSIG or through the GA, so that more and more teachers can feel more confident about delivery. It's also about discussing curriculum matters and about the bigger picture of fieldwork, and how we need to really be thinking of it as having protected status within our curriculum, and how can we work within our schools to make sure that that security around fieldwork continues. And then finally, it's all about, of course, celebration as well. So if your kids get in a river and have a welly full of water rather than doing any proper work, then take a photo of it, send it on, celebrate the kind of messiness of field work, the joy that comes with it. Take photos of their work that they produce when you get back into the classroom. Again, share it on social media. Just all about the idea of us remembering what is so brilliant about getting outside and doing some amazing learning. So on social media, it's hashtag National Festival of Fieldwork. You can, as I say, there's the GA website. All you need to do is Google National Festival of Fieldwork and it will come up with that. And do remember to upload your numbers of students taking part, and then you can get your school certificate as well. There we go. You said 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chloe. There are certificates available to give the children as well that are taking part. So they're always quite nice to print off as well. One other thing that we're going to do in my school is our subject captains are going to go and do little video clips from teachers from other departments and what they remember about enjoying fieldwork or fieldwork they've taken part in as a teacher, just to promote it that little bit more from a slightly different angle as well. Speaking about my own school, my first speaker is Chloe Spilstead, who I'm proud to say is my head of faculty and geography teacher. And she's going to talk about the fieldwork that we do with our year 8s. So Chloe, over to you. You're going to share your screen.
I am. Fingers crossed. Thanks, Hina. Right, can everyone see that?
Yeah, it's up now.
Okay, lovely.
Not on presentation mode yet, though, so.
Right, okay.
You don't have to put it on presentation mode. That's fine.
Well, let me see. Do I just F5?
Hopefully.
Maybe not. I might just have to click individual
Keep it like that. It never works for me, to be fair. Rightio,
so I'm going to talk about our year 8 fieldwork, which we actually use within our globalisation topic. And we actually use our local high street as a link to globalisation, because sometimes the barriers can be what can we do, where can we do, how can we link it into our current curriculum. And in terms of the practicalities, which is the slide that you're looking at, we settled on our local high street for a wide variety of reasons, because we actually walk the students there and back. It's a good half an hour walk or so, but again, that is really quite handy for cutting costs, because we know how expensive coaches are. It also reduces the letters that need to go home and the permissions. Most of you are probably using Evolve for your fieldwork systems, so then it comes under a local area visit, and therefore there's much less paperwork to do as well, and so there's no charge. So it all links into kind of less work on the geography department, which is obviously can be a real barrier, and it also means we do get the whole day off of timetable, but we are not actually out for the whole day. And I'll talk about that slightly later. We have a booklet as our only piece of equipment. So we're not reliant on that, because that again can be like, there could be a cost barrier, there could be equipment failure, lost. So that is also really, really useful. And then we have designed a whole sequence of follow-up activities. So when we get to the high street, hopefully you can see this slide, I always get nervous. We do a wide variety of different techniques, and we're also thinking about how we can build up to A level ultimately. So when you see the block that says first impressions paragraph, this is really useful for us in year 12 when we teach diverse places. So we are planting these seeds quite, early on as their geography career, and we know that we're going to use that later. Also land use survey, we're going to use that definitely at GCSE. So again, we're kind of building up the techniques, and things like where you can see EQS done on a radial graph, that again is linking to GCSE skills, because most commonly EQS gets done on one of those bipolar charts going from +2 to -2. So we're just thinking about different techniques of data presentation, as well as obviously the actual techniques themselves. They quite like the participant observations, where in a timed period we ask them how people are using and interacting with the space, which again links really nicely to diverse places. And all of this is done several times at the top, middle and bottom of Southend High Street. So it's quite nice for them. It's quite kind of low tech by using paces to pace out the width of the frontage, and we give them a key. It's just quite simplistic and quite achievable, and it doesn't take too much. In terms of staffing, we do take the whole of the geography department out, and we take 3 classes. We have it over 2 days, so we're taking 3 classes, 96 kids to the high street. Southend High Street cannot cope with 6 forms of kids. It's not that vibrant or busy, so we kind of time it like that. We do it in 2 days. And then when we come on to the follow-up activities, we're actually out for a morning only. We have lunch back on the school site, so then it's less of an issue for the free school meals children, trying to kind of make them not feel as left out, or maybe as noticeable with the free brown paper bags and having to check on them for food. And they go for their normal lunch, and then they're back straight after lunch for their first hour lesson, because that's what we have here, where they have a follow-up task. And I'll talk about that in a second. So once they've done that follow-up task, the geography teacher that's with them, because we are off timetable with them for the whole day, we pick a winner for our class. And then when the final hour starts for the afternoon, we run through, like we see all of our classes presentations to pick that winner. And then in the last half an hour, we all go to the hall, all of the classes, and the 3 winners from each class basically face off against themselves for a winner. And we invite a member of SLT to come to try and give it a little bit of prestige. We throw some certificates in there. We have badges in our school, and we give them loads and loads of merits and rewards to try and make it like a special day. And then in the PowerPoint that goes with the follow-up task, we obviously give them a minimum of 2 different types of graph presentation that they need to do. We need to tell them how they link it to geography. We also link it to our whole school presentation policy, so that we are trying to not only link to wider geography to build up like synoptic skills for the booklet at GCSE and obviously for A-level, but we're also building up their graphacy skills, as you know, for GCSE, etc. And we actually also, I forgot to put this on the slide, we actually have a follow-up question in the end of year exams. So asking them to name a fieldwork technique which shows globalization, explain how it does. So we try to use the field work in multiple places so that it doesn't just feel like a bolt on, as well as being super useful for us for building up the skills that, as I've said, are going to be used in coursework in year 12. So we try to make really good use of our local area that way. Hopefully that's okay, Hina.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a really good task as well. When we listening to like what they've come up with presentation wise, they love having that hour to put their presentations together, and the solutions they come up with are really very varied and really well thought through, especially when it comes to sustainability and inclusivity. They really do impress us, don't they, every year with the kind of things that they come up with. And they remember the little quirks of the day, which is one of the key things about fieldwork, those little memories that they take away with them. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to Suzanne. And sorry, I can't remember your colleague's name. I can't remember if you told me or not. If you can introduce them as well, please, to what you do in your school. Chloe, if you stop sharing and then Suzanne can
I
start.
think I can.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, it's not working at the moment.
It should, everyone's got permissions to share. So
Okay. I'm just my computer's thinking about it.
there we go. Yep.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. So hopefully you can see.
It's not quite, yeah, there it is. Yeah.
You have got it. Okay. So sorry, I just need to. I'm having the same problem, I think, as
I think leave it as it is because you know it definitely works this way. So,
okay, you can see the screen. I now can't see it properly, but
yeah, we
hopefully.
can see. I'll let you know
Yeah,
if it's
brilliant. Okay, so just I'll be as brief as I can on this. I just wanted to talk about really field work for the 21st century, and it was kind of on the back of coming back post COVID. And thinking about what some of the kind of re-establishing what we were doing, why we were doing field work. And actually we kind of sat down and talked about some of these things, and we had some objectives within the department. So we had a bit of an issue with recruitment as business studies had been launched, and we were really hemorrhaging to them. So it was like, how do we get some of our geographers back? Because we know that there's a really sort of a big crossover between those two subjects. So we wanted to increase engagement. We want to make sure that the fieldwork had a purpose in year 9, and the kids were really clear about that. And that linked very heavily in with making sure that careers took a sort of centre stage as part of our fieldwork. We obviously wanted to develop geographical thinking, both for Key Stage 4 and particularly for Key Stage 5, thinking about the NEA. And really also thinking about creating what we call proactive geographers. And it actually, you've touched on it with the South End, the globalisation, like what do you do next with that information? Because it seems that there's kind of a stop once we get to that. Now, looking at our Getting Our Bearings report, which I'm sure lots of you have had a look at, particularly the fieldwork aspect, it was interesting that there was this statement that kind of jumped out at me about actually how geographers carry out their work, and thinking, well, what skills are we giving our pupils in order to allow them to understand what happens beyond the classroom, and what kind of careers and what ways in which geography could be used. So my laptop's been a bit slow. There we go. So yeah, taking this, it's kind of, we need to move beyond the idea of them being passive receptacles of geographical knowledge, and actually be more looking towards being problem solvers and future planners, and future proofing our pupils to be able to use the geographical inquiry skills to consider problems or issues we have and how they're going to be solved. So thinking about some of the ways in which geographers do carry out their work, kind of brainstorming things to do with cities, to do with climate change and the impacts that's going to have in different parts of the world, in the UK, analysing particularly that crossover business. So we were trying to compete there and pull some back, or actually get some to pick both of those subjects together, thinking about how we, you know, human rights, there we can see detecting large scale abuses. We've touched on that in year 9 as well. We've done our China topic, thinking about social justice issues, health, migration, all of these things. So there's so many ways in which geographers carry out their work, which we wanted to make really explicit to the children through using fieldwork, and ensuring that they became proactive geographers. So they were applying the geography rather than just observing and analysing it. They were actually then beginning to take that understanding to address or to anticipate some of those challenges, opportunities that there are in kind of future. And taking, so I'm whizzing through these, the geographical association obviously was that communicating the findings, but I really like that quote there. You can see about developing and extending geographical thinking. So that's where we were trying to push some of this new types of fieldwork that we were developing within the department. So yeah, that idea that actually communicating those findings shouldn't be the end of the journey. Then we need to take that understanding that has been embedded by measuring and observing the real world, and actually applying those findings to thinking about improving our futures. So we did this by developing some fieldwork around Battersea Power Station. And we decided to look at some kind of more modern ideas around urban design and urban planning, and think about whether Battersea offered inclusive, accessible and sustainable design. We worked with the kids to kind of come up with that inquiry question, thinking about placemaking and how important those different aspects of placemaking were. We went to Battersea Power Station, and we focused on the geographers focused as geographers on the quantitative. So we did urban accessibility survey, and you'll see I've got one of Chloe, the island geographers, popping up in a moment. So thank you very much. We used one of your grids. We did the urban design scores, environmental quality surveys, and we wanted to make sure that we were also incorporating some of the A-level stuff, and making sure those qualitative approaches were given just as much weighting in this investigation. So I'll just screenshot. So there we go. The lovely island geographer. Oh, I seem to have gone backwards. Well, there we go. So thank you very much for that. We, I think, adapted this also from the island geographer, doing an urban design scorecard. Here's our mood survey. So all of the pupils did that, and then when they came back, they kind of analysed those results. We had graphs and obviously data presentation techniques, as well as some of the qualitative techniques. You can see here again, some of them did annotated photographs, and making sure they used those results, kind of incorporated those in a kind of a final kind of cover a finishing up lesson. But then what's the exciting bit we did with it is we then took that understanding and that observation of what they'd seen in Battersea Power Station to actually start to redesign our own local area. Now there are 2 locations very, very close to school which have been earmarked by the council as needing redevelopment. So that gave us a perfect ability to kind of engage with maps and to engage with census data, information about businesses in the area, in order for the pupils to actually think, what were they going to build? So they were given quite carte blanche to just create whatever it was that they thought this area, they could choose one of the 2 areas, should be reused for. And we've done it now 2 years running, and I would say it has been a phenomenal project. It has really it's helped our uptake massively. So we've got really huge classes now at GCSE, almost too many. But actually the conversations that the kids are having about their local area, their engagement, has been so valuable. We also had a big presentation for the finalists. And as you can see, we've got a local councillor to come in. So they feel that they actually have a voice within our local community. We also had some industry experts who came in. You can see the guy at the back there who works in kind of with university lecturers and works with kind of specialists in the built environment, particularly urban design and healthy cities. So the kids got such a huge value from talking to these professionals and actually explaining some of their ideas and having some feedback on how they presented their work and how they talked about their work. I'm now going to just, he's going to talk to you a little bit about what else we did with it in terms of careers.
So I think in addition to what Suzanne said about helping us to sort of promote our subjects and generate lots of enthusiasm, I think it ties in really well with careers. And I know that that's quite a focus in some schools. I know it's quite an inspection focus. So if you're looking for an angle and you need a bit of support to get your fieldwork going, you might want to take the careers view on it, because we were able to show them so many different avenues you could go down when you're thinking about the built environment. So not only when we're at Battersea, you can see all the jobs that people were doing, but then when we started thinking about the planning and then meeting some experts from the industry. So I think it works really well with careers. And I know a lot of schools are quite keen to look for ways to sort of create practical projects. So that could be quite an inroad if you're trying to set something up. I think from a sort of practical point of view as well, Battersea Power Station was a great venue and we didn't struggle to get staff. You know, all these things really matter, and we took them. It was a cold day, didn't matter, it's mostly inside, but you know, we got really good support, and certainly there was quite a buzz from the students and the staff about having that kind of field work. So I think it ties in quite well across the school as well.
Yeah. And just to one of the problems we'd had as a school, we're a mixed school. We had some issues with girls not opting for our subject, which is ironic because we're actually an all-female department. But one of the things we did again with some of the careers was actually try to identify some to stand out to them, to actually kind of challenge some of the stereotypes. So we did give some female role models and talked about the types of careers in there. And yeah, obviously meeting the industry professionals as well. We've, as I said, we've done it 2 years running now, and it's been really successful. And I think the kids who are in year 7 and 8 are looking forward to doing it because they can see the posters, the great big boards that we've still got kind of dotted around, and they can't wait to get into year 9 so that they can do it. So I'd just like to say a great big thanks to Tizzy, because I have all these bright ideas and she helped me put them into practice, and that's it. So hopefully I've managed to do it in the 10 minutes, Hina.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That does sound really, really good. And I love the idea of linking it in with careers and getting industry professionals in, which the one you heard before from our one, we could actually do that quite easily with that as well, with redeveloping
Hugely successful. And it celebrates their success as well, because they feel like they're actually presenting it to people who aren't us.
Yeah, absolutely. It does make a difference. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Next up is Lucy, who is also a member of FOLSIG. So, you know, part of our expert fieldwork panel. If you unshare.
Sorry, I'm trying to stop sharing.
There you go.
Okay, let me just. Oh, where is it gone? Okay, let me just find my presentation. Oh, here it is. Let's do the same as everyone else. You know, just leave this on. Okay, great. Go to the beginning. Hi everyone, I'm Lucy. I'm also in FOLSIG. Here's a picture of me doing fieldwork at the conference, looking so happy. So I'm just going to talk about one idea that we implemented this year in year 9. I think it's, you know, it's not a complete idea. You might just think like, oh, we could use that and then do that. But, you know, hopefully I can kind of talk through that and we'll see how that goes later on. So this was part of the fragile environments topic that we kind of thought of this year. We wanted to think of a physical geography topic for year 9 to study. We did some work about local woodlands and our local school ecosystem, food chains, things like that. And then we went on to think about tropical rainforests in Brazil and Antarctica. So we kind of started small, low-key, small scale. We actually didn't do the fieldwork straight away because, well, I just said it was too wintry and it was too cold and there was no like evidence of spring, there was no insects. It was just really difficult to like, acknowledge biodiversity and things like that. Anyway, so we just did it in April, which, is good. It was a bit the wrong way around, but that's fine. So first of all, before we went out, we got them to do a bit of GIS using Digimap for schools. So they just practiced measuring different areas, calculating how much green space is at school. You can see some varying degrees of success here, one with way too many labels, but well done for doing the work. It's really interesting as well because we're having a new school built, which is very exciting, but a lot of these buildings will go and a lot more green space will go, but also there's lots more green space being, built, provided, and, another pond and things like that. So interesting to kind of compare this, to what might happen in the future. So the students went into the computer room and just had a look at all the green space. They were supposed to calculate how much green space there was across the whole site. And then we went to 3 different sites. So we went to the field, we went to this place which sounds fancy called the Principal's Lawn, which is just a small bit of grass at the front of school. And then we also went to the school garden, which has recently been built by some volunteers, which has been so great. So here are some of the aims of the fieldwork. Year 9, they don't really get to go outside, so that was one of our main aims. We wanted to use some different fieldwork techniques, maybe try and revisit some learned techniques that they've done before. Have a think about the local environment, be in the local environment. Loads of them hadn't been to the garden before, which was really great for them to kind of see a space that they can use on the school site. And also, ideally to assess how fragile the school's environment and ecosystems were. So we used a few data collection techniques, and the first one was kind of sensory geography and sensory fieldwork. So we asked the students to say what they could see, smell, and hear in this area. You can see some different responses here, like the clinging of objects. I think that means like clinking of objects because there's like some wind chimes in the garden. But loads of really nice things, smelling the herbs and the earthy soil. And we gave them some time to be quiet. And you know what year 9s are like. Sometimes they're a little bit loud, but they really enjoyed doing this and they really kind of took it seriously. So that was kind of a good start to kind of ground them in the site that they were in, think about where they were, carefully kind of really look around. Then we did everyone's favorite environmental quality survey. Now, I just made this very quickly. So I think there's definitely feasibility for you to like get the students to like think of their own ideas, what creates a fragile environment or what's a stable environment, and to kind of discuss that. If you had more time to prepare it, you could definitely do that. It was good though. We had a lot of kind of discussions about, what does biodiversity mean in this area? They talked about like why are young trees and old trees more valuable. So that was really good. And then in Oxford at the conference, the FOLSIG team, we did a kind of field walk, where we looked at how you could do field work in 1 grid square. So we took a walk around 1 grid square just near Oxford Brookes, and we used this idea, which was really interesting. And this really brought a lot of good ideas and really thoughtful just thoughtful ideas from the classes, which was really nice. So we talked about nature challenging the human-made challenging nature, nature supporting the human-made, and human-made supporting nature. Lines were a little bit blurred on human-made. We kind of thought about humans as well as, what humans had made. So I've just got a few slides to show you kind of, if you were going to do this, what prompts you might be given, but also like the ideas that they thought of. Sorry, I just need to move this little banner at the top. There we go. All right, so the first one is humans supporting nature. So this is just some different, I just took some photos today of what we'd seen when we went out there. So you can see people, the students had written things like, the bins, so reducing litter, allowing wildflowers to grow, planting that is insect and bee friendly. Someone's put the bird box. The bird box was on the floor when we found it, so I don't know if that was very useful. But you can see there's like a gated area, so that area is the principal's lawn, and you can't go there, so obviously just like reducing it. That picture on the right-hand side is like this great dead hedge that the garden team have made. Really great kind of natural insect hotel. So that's cool. Next one. humans challenging nature. So where humans are kind of causing problems for nature, I don't know why there's a pile of cones at school, but they just seem to be in the verge. A lot of them wanted to write about the white paint on the fields, and today, luckily, the field painting robot was out, so I managed to take a picture of it. Some litter, trampling. That picture at the top is the head teacher deciding that no mow May is truly over. So all of those lovely wildflowers have gone. Nature supporting humans. The sensory garden, you know, the whole focus of it is it's supposed to be like a calming space. You know, you can take your class there to have some outside learning time. There's loads of herbs. There's, you know, strawberries, rhubarb, things like that that the garden team have planted. So things like it's providing fruit. They talked a lot about, you know, trees absorbing CO2. I took that picture there to show how, you know, they've left a little bit of the edge of the field a little bit more wild. Nature challenging the human made, so anywhere where you can see kind of nature pushing through. This person's written algae, but like lichen or moss on the pillars. We saw like ivy growing. Anywhere where kind of nature is kind of winning. Someone's put allergies as well because they thought that was where it was challenging them. Our final thing was field sketches. That's spelled wrong? Maybe not. That we didn't spend that much time on them. So I think they're fairly good, but obviously there's no labels, there's no time, you know, they're not perfect, but you know, you can see how you could improve them if you did it with your class. So I think you could definitely kind of enhance this or use this as part of something else. We did one lesson in the computer rooms with GIS, and then we just did one lesson going outside. So, you know, it was quite time pressured. You could use quadrats or PE hoops to count species of plants. You could use a pillowcase and a 2-meter ruler to collect insect samples from hedges. You could use photos and annotate the different sites, you know, in a kind of similar way to here, especially if you wanted to do a site that, you know, you were trying to compare a site that wasn't on your school site to a site that was. We didn't do any data presentation either, sorry. But I kind of put this one together today just to show you what you could do. So adding photos to Digimap, maybe putting their data presentation, giving it a score using those like little smiley faces, and maybe deciding like, oh, this gets, you know, 3 trees out of 10 or whatever. And then to kind of compare it so you've got a visual comparison. And you could use word clouds. That's just one that I just made it from an article that I found today. I think it's, you know, hopefully you can kind of see ways that you could do this, you know, in a very small space. You don't need to have like a huge area, just getting the idea of like a field compared to another area, even if you've got like a hedgerow on your street or a small local park or something. Hopefully you can see that might be something that you could manage to do. Here are some other ideas. I just got some stuff from Chloe, the island geographer. There's some stuff about ecosystems and the RGS. One thing that the eco team did, which we didn't do in class, but we did calculate how much carbon the trees on the school site have sequestered. Had some very enthusiastic eco club members running around the field and calculating that. So that's also something else you could do if you had a bit more time to do this. That's it. Sorry, I spoke so fast.
Thanks, Lucy. I think you've got some really good ideas here that would work at primary and secondary level. The fieldwork that my school does in June is Year 7 biodiversity at a local park, and I love that idea of the human and nature interactions. I think I'm going to suggest that we put that into ours this one, but we actually do the quadrat and counted the species
Sure, yeah.
and all of that. So the combination of mine and yours, I think, would work really well.
Great.
Thank you so much. Passing over to Chantal, who always has some amazing ideas. You can share your screen when you're ready.
I think it should be coming. Has that worked?
Yep.
I'm going to switch to Menti for a bit of it, just so that you're aware if you've got a phone or if you've got your computer. And I'm going to use HiveMind because rather than me doing it, and especially given the number of experts in the room. So what I wanted to share was just encouraging students to think about things from their own perspective as close as possible to either the school or to their home. With a focus on encouraging them to appreciate the area that they live in, so love where they live, to stay curious and ask questions, and linking into the Voices project, which we work with. So I was trying to do this on a scheme of, or on a theme of my street, and thinking about how we can support students to be curious about their own local area, their own street, but focusing on Steve Brace's like back garden pick as being like a base point for that, but also thinking about the Young People's Geography Project and what we can learn from having done that. Danny Dorling's Lives on the Central Line as well, and how we can use that to inform what we're doing, but also some more recently released stuff. So Dr. Rose's Super Diverse High Streets in Ladywood, and Feed in the Voices project. So thinking about how we can lead engaging local field work by doing that. So I know it's quite an old project now, but the Young People's Geography Project was really, really important when we were doing fieldwork in the West Midlands, and looking at fieldwork from students' perspectives. So it feeds into some of what was said earlier in terms of getting the students to look on a local issue or to decide the future and present back. So the Young People's Geography Project, from my interpretation of it, was about the students designing and carrying out their own fieldwork on something that was of interest and importance to them. So their whole involvement in that. So it to be some kind of student self-driven fieldwork about issues and places that mean something to them. So to find out what was done previously with that, you can see that in Teaching Geography Volume 35, Issue 3. The Danny Dorling's Lives on the Central Line, if you haven't had a chance to have a read of it, it's like a little bit of a narrative going along the line and how the lives of people change along that line as kind of fictional stories, but based on the reality of the data that you would find changing along the transect. So ideas that you could do something similar in terms of field work. So step one, obviously identifying patterns and change along the transect or along your street. Asking questions like, what are the characteristics of this area? So what is it like? How would I explain those kind of features, those details? What would it be like if I lived at that particular point on this street? So not necessarily getting them to compare good to bad, but what would my life be like if I lived here? And maybe a few steps further down the road, would my life be any different if I lived here? So really get them to think about the impact on them. How would I feel in that space and that place? So as it changes, so you can look at ideas of kind of in place, out of place, thinking about Tim Cresswell, Yifu Tuan, but also about understanding students' perceptions of space and place as well, and how two people from the same class might feel very differently about the same place. How would my life be different if I was at place X or place Y? So even if they've done their own areas, getting them to make those kind of comparisons. The GA launch of the Super Diverse High Streets resources from Dr. Rose, that we've got a variety of shops and services in an area, would tie into some of what was released through that, and you'll see more information about that via the GA. How different shops and services market to local areas, so whether they speak to the super diversity of an area, so how super diverse is this area, or how, I suppose, homogeneic is it? So is it all one? Is it lots of different? So it just links into like clone town type aspects and globalization, as other people have spoken about. There is some training on that. If you didn't get to see her resources, there's still some spaces on her CPD training coming up this month. If you are in the West Midlands area, I would definitely recommend going. And then Voices Project, so encouraging students to ask people about that street, about that place, about their home. So it could be through interviews, it could be with friends and families, it could be reflections of what it was like on that street. So even encouraging like intergenerational conversations with their own parents, grandparents, their neighbours who might be a little bit older, might be a little bit younger. What was it like to live here? How has it changed over time? So that kind of temporal element as well. And then as simple as things like food on the high street. So linking into ideas like we're here because you were there. So there's some resources attached that link to a homework project that we put out through the Voices project, linking about globalization, migration, types of food, and then even just thinking about who is the target audience of this space. Is this for the local community? Is this street just about the people that live here? Is this high street aimed at these particular people? So when we do A-level fieldwork in Aberystwyth, it's like, is this for students? Is this for tourists? Or is this for locals? So like, whose street is it? That could work the same on a residential street as it does on a high street. So my question is, no matter what your high street is, or your street, or your road, or your house, or your back garden, what kind of questions could we ask in these spaces? So I've put a Mentimeter together. So if you could humour me and go to menti.com, the code is 1986 1233, or you can scan the QR code. And I've just split it into 3 different groups. So like a more rural, a suburban, and an urban. So what kind of things could you investigate in these places? Because all of our schools will be somewhere on this spectrum, or anyone else's schools. So stealing your hive mind, I've put it so you can go through at your own pace, and then we'll feedback about it. Let's go 2 minutes. If you have another body in the room, feel free to discuss first, turn and talk. So like the colour pictures will be bigger on this screen. With one that's coming in about accessibility, that's quite interesting. When we were in our first year at university in Aberystwyth, some groups had to take a wheelchair around town to see if they could actually navigate through the streets and the town if they were in a wheelchair. So like being able to have that, or like pushchair, you know, getting students to consider that. Hina, has that shown you the answers?
It is, yep.
Yes, good. I didn't know how to share my screen, so that's good. So there's some lovely answers coming through. Another question for you though is, if you asked your students, what could you investigate here? Would they pick the same stuff as you? And how can we marry those two things, those really geographical theories, to the lived experiences of the students that are there? Maybe they might know it better than we do. So for instance, there might be dirt bikes driving around in the countryside. You know, how do we stop that? How do we deal with the crime issues going on in the local car park? How do we manage that? Or do the local residents mind about these things? Or why do some people get involved in the scarecrow competition and other people don't? Stuff that they know about their own space. So I think it's also really, really important to give students their input and their voice on it, and we can help shape it and push it towards the theory, but then it becomes designed by them and important to them. Obviously, I'll print screen all of these, Hina, and I'll send it as part of the presentation anyway, so that it can go out much easier. So yeah, loads on like accessibility, some stuff that would be like change over time, new housing, doesn't matter where you are, there's certainly some kind of change in housing or land use going on. So I'll jump onto the next one, but it should still stay open. So then down to a more kind of typical, more suburban, I would say this is kind of like the area that a lot of schools tend to be in, like on the edge of a town perhaps, or at least with access to both the town and the countryside. But then again, like even looking at things like the healthy high street, or the increase in the number of vapes, the personal services growth. You might, even if they're local and they go in those shops all the time, get them to do like little interviews with their with the people that are there. Like, how long has that shopkeeper been there? What do they sell? What do they think about students? If this is in your catchment, it might be quite informative for the school if you've got the students to do a little investigation on what's happening in their local area and what they think of the students in the local area. So like some of the things are the same questions off both as well. So I'll just jump onto the next one. So we've got enough time. Nice geology of the streets. Is that the same pictures? It shouldn't be. If you just do it based on the urban bit, and I'll change the pictures when I when I put that up. So I'll go back to the main screen rather than anything else. So looking at the urban pictures on the top. So we've got London at the top. So like areas like Chinatown or graffiti in the city. Yeah, so like impacts of migration, globalization. I always think like asking students to consider whether graffiti is legal or illegal. What's the difference between graffiti and street art? And then going down the route that you were going down before, that idea of if you could add a mural or a design or something that would go here, what would you put? Why would you put it? Even looking at skate parks and things in the local area, space that's over for those people that are there. So if you've got any other thoughts, that's also awesome. So the last thing that I had was just that idea of starting simply and building up. So even going straight down from early years in year one all the way up to kind of A levels. So focusing on, you know, even things like the colour wheel. So there's lots of stuff been done in the different colours in terms of blue, but also coming out of things like Mission Explore. You've got things like how many different greens can you see, or matching the green to it. So even as a primary school student, particularly even really young, like going and getting things or matching that colour wheel to different parts of their back garden, of their school playing fields, of what they can see out the window, using iNaturalist and National Education nature parks, changing the amount of greenery or space. So taking that same idea of what the colour is and how it changes, then taking that outside and going, okay, how does that change across my own garden, between my house and next door, between whatever is growing out of the plants on the roof or whatever with the hidden nature kind of elements. How does that percentage of green space change along one street or along the road? And then maybe comparing it to a partner's road. So if people have done different streets because they've done it as part of a homework, or they've gone to different areas to do it, and then get them to compare their street with their partner's street and how that changes, so that we get them to really think about how those changes happen. Or comparing different towns, you could then go into virtual fieldwork to do street view on different areas and how it changes over time, like you say, change the slider of the date back. And then even building it up as far as your future, your sustainable settlement. So what are the issues facing your area, your street, and how would you look for a more sustainable future, which goes into what we were saying before. And for me, it's about encouraging the students to first of all be curious and ask those questions, to then at a basic level identify patterns. What is the pattern in my garden? What is the pattern out my window? What is the pattern on my street? How does that change over space, over time, or comparing a different area? And then we can push them into those reasonings why. But that was me, I think. So like you could replace that with other things, greenery or species, to go to something else.
Thank you very much. Some really good ideas there, and some things that I hadn't thought of previously. I love that green wheel idea, especially because that can be done at all ages. I think you'd get responses at different ages from that as well. So thank you. We do have one more presentation, which isn't going to be live. So Anthony Barlow, who trains primary teachers at Roehampton, he has created a video to which they were going to present on the rearranged date, the original date, with some of his trainees. So when this is edited, there will be a QR code attached to the video that they've created about the fieldwork they've done for the local area, which could be applied anywhere. So that is just an additional one. So just a reminder, all the Teach Meets are available on YouTube to watch at any time. Just search Geographical Association, you should find the Teach Meets under there. And the next Teach Meet, which will be in July, will be primary based. So good luck with National Festival of Fieldwork. I look forward to seeing lots of things on social media from all different schools, and just go out and enjoy. Thank you so much, everybody.